This is episode 550, and today we're going to be talking about 4 ways to build your willpower. Now, there's a lot more than 4 ways, but we're just going to go over four of the ones that will have the biggest impact on you. Usually when we hear the word willpower, we relate it to losing weight or quitting smoking or quitting something or giving up some sort of obstacle to our progress. But willpower is really extremely helpful when trying to break those bad habits, but it can also be beneficial in other areas of your life. And you can kind of think of willpower and mental strength and resilience and grit, but each one of those are different. But we're talking essentially about the same thing here. And it's important to realize that you're not born with willpower. It's something we must nurture and build in ourselves. Just like a muscle, just like a habit, just like a bad habit, you build and nurture that. We want to have willpower as a good habit. We want to build and nurture that. And the thing is, once we strengthen our willpower, it'll provide us with an upper hand in achieving our goals, whether it's going after something or releasing something. A moving away from goal would be I want to lose this weight, I want to quit smoking. Moving towards goal would be I want to create this much money, I want to create abundance, I want to create health, I want to create love. So whichever way we're going, willpower is extremely helpful. Why? Because we'll develop an unshakable focus and intensity in purpose. When we have a goal, there's usually a purpose or a reason behind it. And when we can solidify that reason with willpower, then the success of that goal is much easier. So, how do we go about building willpower? What are some of the things? Well, there are quite a few, and we're going to go over four strategies to get you headed in the right direction. And again, these are just four of the big ones, the big four pillars of building willpower. But again, you can think of willpower and mental strength kind of synonymous, but willpower is finite. The more decisions you make early in the day, the more your willpower will diminish. This is why many successful people will either figure out the clothes they wear at night. So when they wake up, I mean, this is something simple, right? We don't realize how much this takes away from us. But when we have to start making decisions, regardless of what it is, we then start using up our willpower. So the clothes we're going to wear to work, what type of coffee we're going to have, what we're going to have for breakfast, right? All of these decisions first thing in the morning start to drain our willpower. So we want to make sure that we set ourselves up for success and know that we have, let's say, 10 units of willpower or 100 units of willpower, and every decision that we make takes one of those units away. So keep that in mind when we go through these four strategies to help you develop that willpower. Right? The number one is committed. You must be committed to reaching your goal. If you're not completely committed to what you accomplish, there's no reason you'll be able to develop willpower. Seth Godin, in his book, The Dip, talks about this specifically, is that set a goal and then ask yourself at what point would you stop going after that goal. And if you come up with an answer, don't go after it because it's really not that important. You really aren't committed to it. You really don't have that deep desire. If you come up with, well, if this happens and this happens, then I will give up that goal. Then don't do it. Don't do it. You have to make that commitment. And that commitment, amazing things when you commit to a goal. Amazing things like, I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to stay on the path till I hit it. With goals, right, with SMART goals, we want to give some sort of a finish line to it, a time frame with it. But if that time frame comes and goes, willpower says you keep going. Grit and resilience, mental strength says you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And that's how you develop. So what we're talking about is building that willpower, right? And the first thing is I am absolutely committed to this goal. And this is where when you do make this commitment, it really helps to share that commitment with other people. Most of the commitments are in the form of New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose weight. Well, there's no specificity around that. I want to make more money. Again, no fizzy around it. But when you make that commitment, and what's strange is, or what's interesting is, a lot of people will commit to what they don't want, but they have no idea what they do want, so it's hard for them to commit. They know they don't want to be sick anymore. They know they don't want to be broke. They know they don't want to smoke. They don't want to eat. They don't want to be fat. I commit not to be to being that. But what happens is that's what we attract more of. So when you make this commitment, make sure it's committed to what you want. Not so instead of saying, I don't want to be fat or I don't want to smoke anymore, I want to be smoke free. I want to be thin and healthy, right? So you have to define what you want very specifically. And then you make that commitment, and you will be surprised on how your willpower will start to grow and strengthen once you make that commitment. Then call on your inner strength, right? Building your willpower takes perseverance. It really does. And this is a time to call on your inner strength, that extra push you need to get through the difficult times. That inner strength could be part of your spiritual beliefs. It could be that the deep down reason why. The inner strength is, why do you want this goal? And not just, and when you look at why you want the goal, look at the butterfly effect of that goal. For instance, let's say that you want to get in better shape. Why? To play with your kids. Why? So I can go out and roll and play and create great memories. And then when they get older, I can play with their grandkids, right? So you want to create this very, very compelling why, which is part of your spiritual practice, which is part of your inner strength, right? There's mental strength and there's that inner strength. The inner strength is your soul, your spirit. I remember talking with Mark Devine, Navy SEAL, about this concept, and we have this mental strength, which leads to physical challenges. Physical strength leads to mental strength, leads to emotional strength, leads to that spiritual strength. And he says that when you're going through buds and all these trainings, all of that stuff goes away, right? The physical, you're exhausted. The mental, you're done. Emotional, you're done. But then it comes down to that spiritual or soul strength. That's your inner strength. That's what's going to keep you going when things get really, really, really tough, because that inner strength is independent of your conscious mind, is independent of your thinking. Your inner strength will help build you and move you forward. So when times get tough, you want to call on that inner strength. That's that connection you have with a higher being, that spiritual beliefs that you have. Ask for support. So when you're going through this, developing your willpower, building your willpower to achieve any goal is an undertaking, right? So we have a goal, we're going after it. Our willpower growing is a byproduct of going after that goal, because the goal should be something that you have never achieved before. If you've achieved it before, there's no reason to dip into your willpower, because you're just going to repeat what you've done before. But when we achieve a new goal, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, and this is why it's so important to have support during this time. Ask friends, ask spiritual leaders, ask a coach, ask a mentor, ask for support. The thing is, when we ask for support, you'll be amazed at how many people raise their hand and say, I'm here for you. They're not judged. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to see you succeed in whatever you're chasing after. And there are some that don't. But we don't ask for support from those that don't want us to succeed. We ask for that from people who do want to succeed. And it shows more strength when you ask for support. When you try to do it yourself alone, our willpower will fall, our willpower will diminish, and we'll make excuses on why we can't do this and why we can't do that. But by asking support, we can get that injection of willpower, of mental strength, of inner strength, of resilience and grit. And when we ask for it and get it, amazing things will happen. Then be consistent, right? If you have the willpower to stop smoking for 1 week, that's wonderful, and you should celebrate it. But the only way you're going to build your willpower is to do whatever it takes to avoid cigarettes today, tomorrow, and forever. Then soon enough we'll be celebrating 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and then forever. Be consistent. I mentioned this quote in an earlier podcast: "Inch by inch, anything's a cinch." That's Robert Schuller. But consistency builds on it. Kaizen, a little bit better every single day. So when you start developing willpower, it's not going to develop immediately overnight. When you're lifting weights, most people make the big mistake is they try to go up in 10-pound increments, 20-pound increments, 15-pound increments. But they have these little things called plate mates, and they have them in a pound and a quarter. So you put a pound and a quarter on one side, pound and a quarter, that's 2.5 pounds. And you keep adding 2.5 pounds each week to it. And it's a little tiny change, but it will build your physical strength. But it's being consistent. And so when you look at your goal and you start making progress toward that success, and you just keep repeating that over and over. And this is where, a coach can come in handy by asking for support and then being consistent. You can be held accountable. So often when we don't have somebody to be accountable for, our consistency lacks all over the place. One of the things I have my clients do to make sure they are consistent, if they're looking at achieving some sort of a fitness goal, then I use an X on the calendar. One diagonal line is staying true to their nutrition for the day. The other diagonal line is staying true to their workout or cardio or whatever else it is. So at the end of the day, if they can make an X, that's great. And a lot of times in the beginning, at the end of the 30 days or 30 days, they will look and they'll see a lot of missing X's. So they know they weren't consistent. They may have one line or they may have no lines. But being consistent is the key. And we think we're consistent, but until you track it, and this is again why a coach is handy. The coach can track your consistency, can provide you tools to track your consistency. So these four things are, when you put them all together and just look at them from a bigger picture, these will all help build your willpower. So here's the thing. Willpower is a tricky concept because it diminishes over time and you have to strengthen it, and it may not be fun, but we all want to develop it to break bad habits or reach really particular goals. Yet in order to do that, we must be willing to go that extra mile and fully commit ourselves to our success. When you have achieved something, if you look back, you will realize that you have fully committed yourself to that. If you're committed, you should be commended. Be sure to use these tips and build your willpower and celebrate your success each and every day. If you'd like to see the show notes for this, you can go to warriormindcoach.com. The show notes are there. The podcast is there. Other blog posts are there. Other material to help you build your willpower, your grit, your perseverance, your resilience, all of it is there. And while you're on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest under Warrior Mind Coach.